People.
This is the Vagiato Broadcast Show.
Timpin, Salone. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us again. My name is Wilbur Garcia Juarez. To my immediate left, we got my main man, Drew Bisky.
What's up?
And to my right, we got the man that made all of this possible, Q. Echelon Carter.
What up?
Now, today, we have another very special guest, an award-winning spoken word poet, goes by many names, Casso the artist, Slammy Sosa,
A.K.A.
East Side Chef,
A.K.A.
Chef Too Much,
Sure.
but we know him as Chevon. Let me get a warm little introduction.
What up? Cross?
Yo. Good?
What's good?
Thank the Lord, fellas. How y'all doing?
Pretty good.
Doing good? So we're going to start off right out of the gate.
Hold up.
Valentine's Day was yesterday.
Yeah.
What'd you do yesterday?
See, me and my girl got a girlfriend. I went.
Well,
She
sorry
always
to
make
break
sure-
it to you, ladies.
She always make sure I got to start with that.
Yeah. I got you on that.
Yeah, I actually wrote her a poem and had it framed. Got her a nice little rose to go with that. We went out because I actually had a show last night, and she usually has fun. And after that, we were trying to go dancing and whatnot. Then returned back to the crib and no comment.
All right. So for the people that
First
don't
few
know,
things.
who is Chevon?
Chevon is a broke kid from the east side of Atlanta with Jamaican parents who just loves to write shit. Wait, am I allowed to curse? Yes. No.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't.
It's up to you.
It's
We
not
haven't
my
had-
platform.
we
I
haven't
don't
really
take
had
it.
problems.
I want to respect your cipher.
We don't have any filter
Yeah.
here. I mean, we can talk about whatever.
Well,
We can say whatever.
Good
Yeah.
question. About that. Hey.
All right. So you say you're from Atlanta,
Yes,
but you
sir.
had a show yesterday in New York.
Uh-huh.
So why New York and why not in Atlanta?
Okay, well, I was born in New York and moved to Atlanta when I was about 8 years old.
Okay.
And stayed all the way up until college. I ended up going to St. John's because my brother went here. And when I looked up the location, it was like, okay, it's one train from the middle of New York City where all the opportunities and magic and random Jay-Z's walking the street and shit.
Yup.
So I'm like, all right, cool, I'll go here. And I came back and just felt comfortable from like day one.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, all right, I feel at home in both places.
Gotcha. And how do your performance go yesterday?
It was cool. I was in a slam at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe. Caught the wind there, so it's always fun. The audience seemed to enjoy it, which was always the most important thing to me. I like to make sure that I reach the people who are in the space listening, and we just all share in that experience together. And yeah, that's pretty much all.
And it was a competition, right?
Yeah, 3 rounds, 3 minutes, 30 seconds each. How they set it up is they give people in the crowd scorecards. They give about 5 of them out.
Okay.
They cut off the highest and the lowest score, so they get like the 3 in the middle. So max you can score for one piece is 30.
Okay.
Minimum would be 0, but I've never seen anybody get like lower than maybe 21, 22.
Gotcha.
And yeah, 3 rounds of that, and we're going home with like some music and partying in between because you got to keep people awake. Poetry get a little depressing. Some folks, some of y'all be in your bag.
Yeah.
But talk about your kind of creative process of what kind of goes into making a poem or writing a poem.
Okay. It usually starts not at the beginning of it,
Okay.
but with a bar or a line or any one thing I just really want to say.
Okay.
I'll just be like on a train or just walking maybe to and from a class or just on my own in thought, and an idea or a concept will come to me or something like, oh, this would be tough, or I really want to say this, or maybe I'll have a conversation and it'll be something I really want to elaborate on that I don't feel like we as a society talk about enough.
Okay.
So I'll write it down, and then later when I got free time, I'll sit down and I'll try to build around it.
Okay.
And sometimes the beginning line might actually start the piece. Sometimes it comes towards the end. Sometimes at the beginning, like, you'll never really know until it's done. I try to let those things like work themselves out.
Even though you're an award-winning poet, do you ever still get nervous on stage?
On stage, no. I get nervous when I'm being introduced.
Okay.
I get nervous when I'm being introduced because I feel like that is the one, that's like the last one, because it's like I have to live up to everything you saying right now, and I don't know any of the people out here. I don't know how I'm going to be received. It usually goes well, thank God, but on stage, while I'm not nervous, is I don't feel like I have time to be.
Okay.
It's like, okay, I'm fully aware that I could be nervous right now, but I could also just like talk my shit and hope this actually goes well. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got 3 minutes. So I got to start talking right now.
Yeah.
I feel that. So, has there any time you kind of messed up or kind of fumbled the words a little
Oh, all the time. All the time. I be messing up. I messed up last time y'all saw me. It's just, I'm fortunate, like, I grew up, like, freestyle rapping a lot. Like, in the back of my school buses or beating on lunch tables, all that whole shit.
Yeah.
And, like, when I mess up, I often, like, ad-lib for a little while. You freestyle it a little bit, make some new lines. And then you kind of steer it back into the writing.
Okay.
Because there's usually a point usually several points in the writing I'm comfortable with.
Okay.
So it's like, all right, I messed up a line. Don't stop, pause, and freak out. Just keep going, say some other things that flow, and then, like, try to steer your way back into it.
Okay.
And keep going. Like, if I recorded performances, like, so many of them shits, it'd be the same pieces, but they all sound different because I mess up so much. And just, like, rewrite on stage. That's why I feel like I'm always still editing, because sometimes, like, the freestyle joint will sound better than what I wrote down. I'm like, you know what? Never mind. This is what we gonna say now.
Salone, what kind of the similarities do you think poetry and kind of rap have together?
Wow, that's dope, because my next poem is dead about exactly this. But rap is poetry. Like, rap is one of the hardest forms of poetry. And what blows me is, like, when you get into, like, a lot of these poetry places, spaces, places, all those things, when people are more inclined to the spoken word style or, like, written, and they're buying books with, like, 3-4 lines on them. Like, rappers get into those spaces and they feel self-conscious and, like, they gotta explain, hey, this is not a rapper's poem. Yes, I mean, this is not a poem, it's a rap. I'm like, yes, it is. It's one of the hardest ones because you gotta do this on beat. You gotta rhyme consistently. You still have to tell the story. You still have to have your metaphors and your bars and your pen game up. So I really came into poetry from rap and try to blend the two when possible and go, like, back and forth, because I love them both.
Right.
To be honest, I just think they're, like, one in the same.
Okay.
So going back to the roots of everything, how did you develop your passion for poetry?
Are you referring to, like, writing in general or, like, specifically, like, slam spoken, all that stuff?
I guess it can be both.
Okay, like, writing in general, I was, like, a rap nerd as long as I can remember. Like, I remember I was a little kid. I used to mess with Eminem a lot, Outkast a lot. I used to listen to Dipset when I was a little kid. 50 Cent when he dropped. T.I. as soon as I moved. Then started listening to older stuff like Big, Pac. I became a huge Nas fan. I'd probably say Nas and Andre, probably my favorites. And then I grew like to appreciate Jay more in like the 2000s, then Wayne and all that. Like from then, and I would just like write down like people's full verse and just like, okay, what does this part mean? What does this part mean? What does this part mean? Because it interested me so much, like what you were saying and how you were saying it and how you went about it. And the next thing I know, I was in like 5th grade and we just like rapping in the back buses and people were like, oh, you kind of nice. I was like, what? No, I'm not. Like, I'm a fan, but I guess if y'all say so. And it was like on and off, pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down, you know. And then I got to college. I came to a Food for Thought poetry meetings, poetry org here on campus, because I just wanted to get like more involved in shit. Because I remembered the thing that made me most comfortable in high school was when I got involved. I played basketball, football, and ran track and ran cross country. So like when I was involved in other things besides my classes, it made me feel like more at peace and like happier in the environment. So joined the Food for Thought meeting. I'm writing. It's feeling good. Like everything I wrote was like in rap from there, because we do free writes at the end of every meeting and shit. It was always rap. Everybody in the room always loved it. And one day, Tamara signed me up for their slam, and I was like, "Oh, what is that?" And like, how does like I'm thinking like, "Nigga, we about to wrestle? Nigga, I'm about to teach somebody and shit." Slam? What? I had no idea how to do it. That was probably the most nervous I had ever been before, because I had never done it before. I had no idea if I would be any type of good at all. Like, I think by the grace of God, I was, like, I had 2 weeks to prepare. I was able to come up with nothing every time I thought about the shit. Like, my hands would just sweat. And then, like, when I was there, like, at the event, I signed my name up. I mean, no, my name was signed late because, like I said, I had no choice in this. And, like, so I just had time, and I was just, like, writing and writing and writing. And it just came to me, and I came up with a poem that I think was trash at this point, but it was enough to get me to the next round then. I don't know how. I deleted the video. We done burnt the footage. That's what we don't speak on no more. And then, yeah, same thing happened in round 2. And then round 3, I ended up writing, like, one of my favorite pieces ever. And then I was like, okay, stuck with it. Went out to the city to, like, explore. Wanted to see, like, if I was actually any good, or if this was just, like, you know, big fish, small pond, you know, just because, you know, just being in the microcosm that is, like, this campus. And it worked, and it just got bigger and bigger, and I just started working at it, and here we are, still, like, 4 feet from where we started, but we moving.
I feel that. You go?
Yeah. Okay, so you go by a lot of AKAs, right?
Yeah,
You're a man with
I was given
many
a lot
names.
of nicknames. I like them, though.
So, and you grew up in ATL.
Yes, sir.
So, I'm wondering, is there any specific topics that hit different in New York versus ATL, or the vice versa?
I feel you. Let's see here. Anything that mentions like a subway, of course, is bigger in New York, because the subway system is like everything in New York, and it's like minor in ATL. I mean, there's MARTA. It's dead got like 4 lines and shuts off at like 1 or 2 a.m. So and they know hopping the turnstile because they got like a 8-foot fence. And they open the doors and close them again. You gotta wait for somebody to run back, or don't. You know, you should pay your fare like a law-abiding citizen and whatnot. So yeah, those things. I'd say if I mention rappers, Jay or Nas getting more play here than me being there and saying like, okay, Dre or Big Boy or Tip or Goody Mob.
And like Goody Mob.
A little bit. Just
Goody Mob.
a touch, man. Just a touch.
Alright.
And like, yeah, certain lines, like when I quote certain people, like where they're most popular tends to be a little different.
You mentioned artists like Jay-Z and Nas, and they're kind of heavy in like the metaphor game and like their alliteration. So even just coming to see you kind of perform, you're heavy in kind of your metaphors and like the pictures you paint. So, you know what I mean? How do you think that, to the artists today, Like, do you look at anybody in the same way, in the same regards you do like artists today, or no?
We referring to rappers right now.
Rappers, artists, singers, anybody.
Okay, let's see. Rappers right now who are like that. Of course, Cole and Kendrick are like the big buzzword names. Of course, that's kind of obvious. But JID,
Okay.
show, I love JID and what he does. Let's see. I was watching Rhythm and Flow. I became a fan of D Smoke and London B. I was watching them. That was
I just seen that one too.
entertaining. I was feeling that. Chance can get in that bag on occasion, but sometimes he can get a little corny for me. Get a little too hokey.
Do you feel like Chance is kind of
specific.
overhyped?
Coloring Book was. Chance ain't. Coloring Book
I don't know about. I think Coloring Book was straight.
Coloring
I think
Book was.
his recent album was like more like industry.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I liked Coloring Book, don't get me wrong. I definitely liked it, but I feel like the year it was in catapulted it into a bigger place than it would have been otherwise. Because, like, all right, wasn't it the very next year the Grammy was between, like, Damn, 444, and maybe Layla's Wisdom? I don't think Coloring Book wins that year, but it definitely wins the year it was. And I think Chance is an amazing talent. People used to tell me I sounded like him for a second, and it got on my nerves. So I had to, like, change my right completely.
Yeah.
It was a little too much too fast. And, like, the album wasn't my cup of tea, per se. I do like some songs on it. Like, I thought Sun Come Down was about to be a classic, but where he did, like, the tempo switch. I thought that didn't need to be there. Or maybe that could have been a track in and of itself. But, yeah. The singles he was dropping between Coloring Book and The Big Day, I thought all of them were fire, so I was expecting like this album to go crazy. Other artists who I haven't mentioned who may be like of this genre. I like Cordae. Might be in Cordae.
Shout out BG.
As far as like metaphors and lyricism, I'd still gotta have JID as like somebody I definitely mess with.
So like album.
And like, I definitely got to shout out the battle rappers. Loaded Lux, guy.
He definitely tapped in. I ain't
For
think you knew about
sure.
that. He
Lux,
tapped
my
in.
guy.
Arsenal don't know them.
Yeah,
King Los.
King Los.
Yo,
I think King Los is the best freestyler like on earth.
Yeah.
Like nobody's off the dome.
He's
like,
crazy.
I mean, it's like King Los's. Chess is somebody I enjoy listening to. Geechee, Sue Surf. For like anybody who may watch it and be like maybe into like the spoken poetry world. Rudy Francisco, Ed Mabry, I'm a fan of Stephen Willis, and Jamon Hill, wild, Metamorphosis, like people who are like, people I've looked up to. I've met most of them, and like a good amount of them have become friends at this point. And I was like, it'll make me feel like I belong and shit.
For sure. So talk about kind of like the monetization process as far as like. With the money that's in poetry, if there is.
Lord, y'all bleeding it dry. If you would, if any of them poets is like watching it, y'all bleeding it dry. Y'all need to slow down. I need to save some for me. And other young. I'm just playing, but yeah. Let's see the monetization. Books, definitely books, and I'm looking to release a book at the end of this year. I've been working on, or like around my birthday, which is in September. Books for sure. The regional and national slams pay a little more than the regular ones. Like the regular ones, you may get $100 to like $250 to maybe $5 if it's like, one of the less often occurring ones. I'm in one in March that's supposed to be $1,000. I just came back from Connecticut from one that was $1,000. I did not know about until like 12 hours before. My friend was going like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to Yale to go do the Peabody Slam in Connecticut for MLK Day. I'm like, what? Let me send an email. And Gomes and like the curator was like, could you send me some like footage of your work? He's like, I sent him a video. He's like, oh, I was there. I remember you. Yeah, come through. I was like, okay. I ended up, that joint actually got me tight because top three made money. Top three made money, and the rounds were, instead of like 3, 3, 3, it was 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I don't own a 2-minute poem, so I had to make one at like 6 in the morning on the way there, and like it scored, I think 28.2 or 28.1. That was good enough for second in that round. That was the first round. And it was the top, and they had 12 poets, they were cutting down from each. And I ended up getting like a huge time penalty because I never got the chance to like time the poem or even memorize it because like I wrote it on the way here. And like, all right, got a 28.2. That was good enough for a second, but I got like a full point removed on a time penalty, so it turned into 27.2, and that like got me eliminated. I was like, the money. There's also touring. There's feature performances, which is like the poet version of a concert, where you get booked. You do about sometimes 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe even 30. If you've been in the game a long time, you got you a big arsenal for that, because 30 minutes is like 10 damn pieces, and that's a lot. But yeah, those are the ways to get paid a little bit. And a lot of people branch into acting, because there's a lot of performers. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of people who branch into acting. Oh, shout out to Carvin's Lassant, who I forgot to mention as like one of the influences. I was able to meet him and like do a joint that was inspired by him. And like he was very complimentary of it, and I appreciate that. That was one of my more fun moments doing this.
You mentioned acting. Is that something that you want to get into personally, or?
It is. Okay. I do like the world of theater and respect what they do. I know I'm gonna have to do like my homework and like some training first. For sure. Can't just hop behind the screen, because I like standing in front of microphones. But I do want to extend into that. But I definitely want to actually try a lot of things, like of course music, battle rap. Got to get the book. I might got to get the poetry book out. Yeah, I just want to see like how many different ways I can like explore like the creative arts.
Question. So, Drew said he mentioned before, he brought up like industry music. Now I'm wondering, is there such thing as like industry spoken word, and then just like, you know what I'm trying to say?
I don't want to say, but
Is there?
See, industry, there are tropes, so to speak. There are like types. You're gonna find a lot of the type of a lot of types of the same person like occurring, and there's a lot of niches, a lot of lanes, and there's usually like one person who's like considered the dopest or the best or most popular at this lane, and there are like a bunch of subs of that. There's industries, not really, but you can usually tell like who's more experienced or who's like gone farther in this, like almost within like the first few words and how they deliver them and how polished and poised they are. I wouldn't say like subject matter necessarily changes, because one thing about that world specifically is it's not as mainstream as like say music, so they have like an autonomy to say more of whatever they want whenever, and because like it's literally like mandatory that you write your own shit. It's not like usually, it's more self-expression as opposed to, all right, what can reach the largest mass of people at a singular moment or at a given time.
Gotcha. Now, have you ever seen anybody plagiarize some work?
Oh yeah, yeah, big time. I done seen
how do they
that.
get called out?
I'd love to see something. Oh yeah, I know this one brother. I ain't gonna name no names because I ain't gonna snitch. That ain't how I move. You know what I'm saying? But homies. Oh, you can do a bunch of types of poems. You can do poems that are like comedic, poems that are emotional, poems that are storytelling, poems that are like satirical, which is also comedic, or like poems that are like really ranty and like social commentary. Yeah, social commentary. he was doing a comedic poem. I'm like, okay, comedic poems are cool. He's like, all right. And his was like a list of bars. There are 1,000 ways to do like bar list poems where you just, these lines don't necessarily tell a story, but they all just fire. And there's like space for that because there's creativity and whatnot. And like, when I tell you it was straight Instagram memes, like, yo, I was like, hold up, I done shared a couple of these motherfuckers myself. I was showing one of my boys who also did the person next to me. I was like, hold up, watch. As soon as he say a line, I'm going to Google it. I'm going to type it while he say it and watch the meme come up. I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. I was like, oh, hell nah. Like, I was like, yo, if you want to do that for like claps or like to feel good or like just to, I'm like, because some people do struggle with, feeling liked and, anxiety and social things. So I'm like, yo, if you want to go to an open mic, get you a little slide, let people know off the rip, like, yo, these aren't mine, but I'd love to share them with you. I ain't got no beef with it, bro. Take your 3 to 5 minutes to feel good and make everybody laugh and share in that. That's cool. But, like, one time I seen bro at, like, a competition for, like, money. Like, there was $100. Like, you taking food out of niggas' mouths now. I'm like, I beat him, but still, I was like, this, like, if I wasn't, like, he came in second, so I was like, if I wasn't here, you just, like, robbed people who, like, slaving over this. You know what I'm saying? Had me feeling like Andre and Solo, After 20 years in, I'm so naive, I was under the impression that everyone wrote their own verses, coming back different, and that shit hurts me. It was like, that's not kosher. I can't condone or co-sign that.
Yeah, but
write your own stuff, people.
So being that you're kind of on the road, kind of consistently doing like the poetry stuff, do you ever feel the need to recycle your own stuff, or is it always constant need to like make new stuff?
Oh, people tell me I can recycle because I kind of like put my own pressure on myself because I forget that like while you're getting a different crowd like every show, I'm in all of them. So like I feel like, damn, ain't I just do this? Ain't I just do I need to flip it up? Do I need to do another one, this, that, and the third? Do I need to introduce it differently? Do I need to change? Because, I get sick of my own work. I'm not going to hold you. I get sick of it faster than anyone else.
Right. Because,
like, I remember how much time I had to spend with the writing and, like, the memorizing. So by the time it's going on stage, like, 3 times, I'm tired of hearing that motherfucker. Ain't no surprises in it for me. It's just y'all.
What would you say is, like, the process of making new content? Like, how long does it usually take, and like, what are you like usually like your inspirations? Like,
that's another thing that blow me, son. It could take anywhere between an hour and a year
for one poem.
That is a fact. I have a poem that is like 4 or 5 minutes that took an hour to write, and I have one that is like 3 that took the better part of a year. It don't make sense. Like sometimes everything just comes to me in a day and I can write all of it out, and sometimes it's okay a little bit, then I get stuck. Or, okay, let me touch something else. Let me do another project. Let me do another project. Let me do another. Then let me come back to this and like keep going and like let me come back and like something will come to me, or I'll write something like this is okay, but I don't want to put it out yet because I feel like it can be better. And then something comes to me, I'm like, oh, erase all this last 60 seconds and do it over. Yeah. So yeah, I have pieces that took a little bit amount of time. Pieces that took a lot of time. Some took a month. Some took a week. Some took a year. Deadlines have definitely. For some reason, like I write a little bit, I'm a little bit more productive as a writer. I wouldn't say like a better quality. I think it's like the same, but I'm definitely more productive when there's like a deadline or pressure. So a lot of things were written like the day they were intended to be performed, and like performed at that point, and then probably perfected after. Well, nothing's ever perfect, but like edited and polished up after.
Talk about your favorite poem that you ever wrote or recited.
Oh shit, I don't even got one, but Top two, I say Black Boy. There's one where I make an acronym out of the names of like black men. Bryce, Lamar, Andre, Calvin, Kyle, Brandon, Omar, Yasin. And they're like based on people like I've either known through life or like stories I've heard on like the news or whatnot. That have died young in like certain ways, and I use 21 Savage's song "Bank Account" as like a vehicle for that, in that I say I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 friends from the neighborhood that I don't get to see no more. And like certain things happen because I have friends who've died in like particular ways that like appear in the poem, but I don't use their name specifically, you know, just out of like a respect or not wanting to like eat off that.
Right.
And that poem that was actually like the third poem I ever wrote. It happened largely because like I was pissed about a performance I had the night before. I'm not gonna hold you. Like I was doing a gospel cafe for Eden, and I was rapping. That was the day. People told me I sound like Chance. I was like, oh God. And I was sick. I was mad sick. So I ended up like coughing mid-set. Like I had a wild coughing attack. They had to cut the beat off and everything. I was able to like finish it, but it was like a struggle. And once I got back to my dorm room, I immediately threw up. And like Eden is like, they're sweet people. Like everyone's like, so like it's a religious group on campus, you know, it's a Christian organization. Shout out to Eden. Everybody's like super supportive, and I was like, I ain't trying to be supportive right now. I'm really not. I feel terrible. I feel weak. I feel lame. I feel so. Everybody's consoling me like it's okay. So I got, you know, the ego. You know, I got an ego a little bit. Like y'all played. I know you played basketball a few times. You know, you missed a couple shots. Everybody, it's okay. Like, no, it's not. I'm gonna fix this. Like, hold on, stop playing me, man. So it got me, and then I was just like looking at like old social media, like, and looking at my old Facebook, and I saw a picture of like a friend of mine who was like shot at a party like a little while after we left high school. And it just, I don't know, things just all culminated, and you know, my desire to not pay attention in kinesiology, because that's the class I was in at the time. And yeah, it was written in class. You know, I should have been taking notes looking back, but I just started and wrote it. And I remember I texted one of my friends like, "Yo, I think this is the hardest shit I ever wrote." I don't know how though, but I just feel like that, and performed it. That's how I made the team and got into my first national competition ever. I've done that poem so many times in like the past 3 years. It's actually the only piece that's never been outscored, like in the round it's been in competition. It's either tied or won everywhere. And like that's like going up against like local poets, national level poets, the dudes on YouTube with 100, 200K views and whatever, to like just a feature performance in somebody's backyard. It's, yeah, like when someone asks like, what piece are you most proud of, I probably would have to say that one after like some thought, which is weird because it doesn't sound like any of the other ones. Right. Like I can tell it's like a younger me because I rhyme more because I'm still in that like rapper mindset, right, as opposed to like the spoken word artist mindset. Yeah. And it's like less metaphor-y, but it's like a more detailed story that I tell with the other ones. And yeah, that's always going to be like honorable mention. But for me, first place is always the newest one. Whatever I just wrote is always my favorite. So,
I feel that.
And then it's going to keep getting replaced over and over and over again.
You talk about the kind of traumatic events that kind of happened in your past. Do you think you use poetry as an expression of that? Or how would you?
For sure. Because it's like things... No, it's cold season, I'm sorry. It's probably like the fifth time. My voice sound nasally and ish. But, yeah, absolutely, because there's like things, like growing up, we didn't have like bread for ish, like therapy and stuff. And I got Caribbean parents, you know, I ain't gonna hold you. You have to, like, you start talking to them about stuff that's bothering you. It's like, you won't pay no bills? You know what I'm saying? You know, you're good. Go to school, go home, you're good. Like, you know, and just like, it's things I never was able to, things I finally got the chance to like compartmentalize and like let out. Because I'm like constantly thinking, like, if I'm not talking, I'm thinking about anything. Just if I'm walking, I'm thinking. If I'm sitting in a classroom, I'm thinking. Like, I'm always in my own head. And like, it's finally a chance to like let those things out through what I always loved, which was writing, which was literature, which was rap, which was poetry, and all of those encompassing things. And then I get into a space where people like appreciate it, and that just feels amazing.
Feel
So
that.
I love what I do. I really do.
If you could see yourself in 5 years, where do you hope to be at?
I hope to have a beard, man. That'd be lit. I'm just lost.
Get you some castor oil,
hating,
bro. You got
man.
tap in. You got tap in.
I did, man. You know, tropical island. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying. But 5 years. I want to, in 5 years, I want to have an album out,
Okay.
2 books, and a battle that are like readily accessible to where I can be, where if someone says, hey, do you do those things? I can literally be like, hey, Google like my name and these 3 things come up.
Okay.
You know, like I'm not going to put on stock and say, yo, I got to have a battle on Smack. I got to have a Grammy. I got to be a Pulitzer winner. I got to have the best-selling novel. Of course, I want all of these things, and like I aspire to all of these things, but my main thing is do what you control, and what I control is I can put the best version of myself or like the most into my content and like try to promote it. I gotta get better at the promoting side. I'm not gonna lie, I'm mad lazy at the promoting side. And like just let it be what it's gonna be. Like if people enjoy it and they receive it and they want to share it and spread it, that is wonderful. That is a blessing. I love all of it. But as long as I focused on like making the best content I felt like I could make, then I could feel good with what happened.
Yeah. And so drink choice, eat water,
I
no
gotta
liquor,
have
something
water.
like that.
I don't drink alcohol.
Okay.
Personally, man, I smoke a little weed though. I don't drink alcohol. we ain't sending this to the police. I'm just playing. But
It's up to you, bro. It's up to you, bro. What you want to leave there, bro?
it's all love, man. I don't mind.
Put the beep
But,
in.
you know, it's basic. You know what? If Snoop can say it on national TV, I can say it on the broadcast, man. We can say it. But
What do you think about?
But yeah, I was gotta make sure I have my water because I'm a person who my throat dries very quickly when I'm speaking, like a lot or very fast or very loud. So I definitely gotta hydrate like that whole day, and even if I'm doing like more than one poem in a row, I want to have like some water with me.
Gotcha. And your food, the food that you eat that day, does that affect you at all?
Sometimes if I overeat or like get like super junk food, you know, you might, cough up a little bit or be able to like, you ever had like, you can still taste it sort of?
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to eat healthy on like specifically performance days. I'm trying to eat healthier in general, but like specifically on performance days, apples, oranges, bananas, get a salad.
Yeah.
Those would probably be the last things I eat, and like drink some tea earlier, then like drink some tea, then get some water. All right, we're gonna be good.
This will probably be the last question. What do
Okay.
you think? You mentioned weed, so what do you think about the legalization laws and kind of the reform that's going to that?
I love it because I hate to see anyone spend large amounts of time in prison over victimless crime.
Okay.
For one, I think that in terms of drug laws, our country has a history of like pretending like it's for moral reasons, when a lot of the time it's for economic reasons and access, because certain things are easier to control because they're harder to make. When something is very easy to make, anyone can make it and anyone can profit off of it, making it very difficult to like tax certain things. Like there's no one can give me a moral reason why alcohol is perfectly legal and tobacco is perfectly legal, but cannabis wasn't. Like there was no like moral basis for that. It had to be something else. And like where I grew up specifically, a lot of us like didn't have a lot of money, and like our schools didn't have a lot of money, so the textbooks. Oh, you didn't feel like you had a whole lot of options. Like I'm not gonna hold like I told you I ran track. My track was like the track behind our school was concrete. There was like broken glass over on like one side of it. You think somebody drunk and told about like the football field was like half sand because it was like tore up and whatnot. And like that was a way to like start economic freedom for some dudes. Like you just take a little bit of weed and sell it. I ain't saying I'm glorifying drug dealing. I'm just saying I understand people who felt like, like the way of saying, all right, I'm gonna keep my nose in the books and I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna do this. That is swell, but you know, rent due at the end of this month. You know, and that might take a couple years, but you know, I need this right now. And I know some people were able to like parlay that into like legitimate business and you know, legitimate education. And people was like, all right, I'm only going to do this to I'm only doing this to adults. I'm only doing certain amounts. I'm making sure none of my shit is laced. None of my stuff is crazy. Yeah. So, like, yeah, I definitely support the legalization or at the very least the decriminalization of it. Because I'm like, you should not be spending more time in prison than people committing violent crimes just for having weed or being high. Like, that don't make no sense to me when there are doctors who prescribe this for you. You know, I'd say, like, you have the potential to abuse anything, you know, if you go overboard. But, I just don't think nobody should be spending giving up good amounts of their life behind bars off that. Because you can't get that time back, bro.
So, I guess this will be the very last question.
Okay.
What's the biggest audience you've ever performed for?
Like, in terms of numbers or where I was at?
Numbers.
I have no idea. I got no clue. I would not be surprised if it was between 500 and 1,000 people. But, like, the numbers specific, I do not know where I was at.
Okay, because
had like venues that weren't very big but got super packed out to where people are like sitting on the floor and standing and like bumping into each other on some like house party type vibes. And I've been at like a theater or a concert hall setting where there are hella seats and the majority, if not all of them, were filled. So I don't know, like the specific number. We done got the fire department called a couple times. Like, you know, y'all know this unsafe, but we gonna let you run for the minute if I get a call.